Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of FSI DFS. I'm McRuler31, and I will be breaking down the main slate for Monday, 6/28. Hope everybody had a great weekend. I know I did well in NASCAR DFS, and missed TK, but the videos we did were spot on, and had all the right picks, all but one race, so that was very profitable. I was very excited on Saturday night. My Arizona stack finally went off for me. Won me $125, so $17 invested, playing $1 each day on them, and they finally went off for me. And Boston, San Francisco stack every day has come through a couple times, especially yesterday on the FanDuel all day with the Boston bats going off. So been good. So let's keep it rolling. Quickly, just want to cover TK is doing something interesting today. They have a happy hour slate that starts at 5:10 today. It's got a Coors game and it's got Philly and the Reds. So if you're interested in playing that, I'll just make it very simple and straight for you. If the only pitcher worth playing in the whole game is Wade Miley, so I'd put him in as your SP1. I'd skip the ones at Coors Field. Tyler Anderson might seem okay, but he did give up 20. He was in that 21 game that Atlanta put up, and he gave up 9 of them. So I could definitely see him getting lit up. Kyle Freeland's not a great pitcher either, and the Phillies are going with bullpen games. So at that point, just throw in the long reliever that they're going to put out there. I think it's Falter at 4K. Why not? You can load up on bats. So your core, I think, should be definitely from the Rockies game and the Pittsburgh game. I think there's going to be maybe a little bit of rain early. It might be a late start, but it's got 11.5 total. So I would just throw Cron out there, righty and lefty matchup. Frazier, even lefty, I'd still take him at second base. Hayes at third. Story at shortstop. Put Hampson in the outfield at second, and Reynolds from Pittsburgh, and then just figure out who you want for the other outfield and catcher. Definitely fine taking people from Cincinnati. I'm definitely okay since all the pitchers are completely trash. Even if you go Real Muto, a catcher, and pay all the way up there and take him against Wade Miley. And even if you want to throw in Harper there, if he plays, they think he's day to day, or whoever else, Blackman, you have much money. Or you can go up to the opener. The opener has been okay. If you don't know who the long reliever is, at least you know the opener is starting. I think he's only like $800 more, so definitely affordable there. So that covers the happy hour slate. Now let's get into the main slate. There are some pitching options, and since it's not a huge slate, I think I'll just go game by game quickly. First game being the Mets and the Nationals. Neither pitcher I'm interested in here. Washington's throwing a bullpen game. I think the Mets make some really nice, cheap one-off bats here. Maybe if you want to go to the stack, Lindor and Alonso are a little bit expensive, over 5K, but McNeil, Conforto under 4K are great. Dominic Smith right at 4K. I think those 3 lefty bats are great selections there. Kyle Schwarber's been on fire. I think he's up to like 22 home runs. He's just been on a tear recently. Gets another great opportunity against a right-hander here. So I think, he's a good one-off. Bell, so Washington stack would definitely be in play also. I mean, Turner and Soto are a little expensive, especially with some of the pitchers we're going to be talking about today playing. So, but I like Schwarber as a one-off at 4.7, definitely with how hot he's been. Next game is the Yankees and the Los Angeles Angels have a 10 total. Michael King, Dale Mundy. Bundy hasn't had a bad season. The Yankees have been bad at times, so I don't know what shakes out there. I think he's a GPP play at 8.2, but I don't think he's in most of my builds. Michael King, they're trying to get him stretched out. I don't think he goes more than 5 innings here, so I don't think he's worth it even at 6.5. Maybe some one-off bats if you want to go Ohtani and Walsh. So Ohtani will get the home run early on and get that out of the way. David Fletcher leading off is actually, I like him at second base. He's got like 11 games hitting streak. He's been pretty quiet. So if you want to like a little 3-man here, or even Rendon at 4.3 isn't bad. Stassi's at catcher is okay in the 5th spot. So I'm okay with a full 5-man stack here, but that's more of a GPP, not really a cash play. Some of the left-handed one-offs I said is okay, but Fletcher, keep him in mind because when I get into roster construction, he's going to be key to that. Yankees on the other side, I think they're in a great spot against Dylan Bundy. Even though it's a righty on righty matchup, I think that they'll do well here. However, they're just priced so high that it's going to be hard to get them in. But I do have a way that I figured out. So in roster construction, we'll get to that. A little bit of rain potentially in Detroit and Cleveland. You've got two pitchers who could be possible punts. Like Matt Manning, he's a great prospect. He's got a good curveball, good fastball. Like overall control's a little iffy. Not really a strikeout guy. So at 5'9", I think he's okay to play if you're trying to get one stud pitcher in and that we're going to talk about and some decent bats. Eli Morgan on the other side, I think I like him better. I think I'd take a stab at him. He's not my favorite punt. I don't really have any favorite punts, but I think he's okay. Detroit has been better recently, but I think, he might be able to go like 5 innings at least. And again, we have to keep the eye on the weather here. So I think he's playable. Let's just call him that. Detroit, I can see if Badu leads off, that'd be great again. But even in the 5th spot, lefty, 3K, good. Shoop is like super high price, but the rest of the Detroit bats make a nice cheap stack or especially a secondary stack if you're trying to get one of the big boys in today. Like we already talked about the Yankees being a little expensive. Cleveland on the other side, not super interested against Manning, but I can see them. Jose Ramirez is usually good. I took him the other day as like a one-off figure, and it's Jose Ramirez. He's always, usually matchup proof, but he had a big fat 0 for me, so that was kind of frustrating. But there's, the lefty bats up here aren't too bad. Probably Bradley has come back down to earth after his hot start, but he's still almost 5K. Down the bottom, like Naylor, Zimmer, I mean, there's some cheap one-off bats there too if you need something against a pitcher who's struggling a little bit with control and Manning. The Boston Red Sox and the Kansas City Royals. Now, Garrett Richards has not been a great pitcher this year. However, we just saw Lyles kind of really shut down Kansas City on Sunday. I believe that's who pitched for Boston. Or no, whoever. They weren't playing Boston. Boston played the Yankees because they scored all those runs. But Kansas City really struggled against marginal pitchers where we're going here yesterday. So they've had times where they've had flashes of brilliance, and I love O'Hearn here at 2.9. He used to be first base eligible, so when I was building the stacks, you always used to have to pick between him and Santana. He had that stretch where he hit like 4 straight days of like hitting home runs, so the guy has some power, but now he's outfield eligible, so he is another going to key to lineup builds when we get coming up here. But he's the only one that really scares me at this point. I mean, Perez is a good hitting catcher. He's leads catchers with home runs. He probably leads a lot of other position players with how many home runs he has this season. I think he has, hold me here, 18 maybe. Let's see here. Well, let's say he's got a decent amount. But anyways, but I'm okay with Garrett Richards as a pitcher here. I like Boston against Danny Duffy. Danny Duffy came back from the IL. He's still getting stretched out. Maybe 4 innings, 5 if we're lucky. But I really don't know if he's going to be able to go super, super deep into the game here. So I really like these Boston bats going. I was right. Perez has 18 home runs. Just saw that. But these Boston bats definitely in play here. You got to like Chavis if he's leading off, or Kiki, or haven't seen them used the switch hitting guy, Santana, too much recently up there. But Martinez, Bogarts, Devers, even against Duffy's not going to be that long, so it could be a righty coming in after one at bat. So I think he'll be fine there too. So really like Boston stack. I think they're going to be my second favorite one of the day. Next up, we have the White Sox and the Twins. We have Lucas Giolito against Kenta Maeda. Giolito, I think, is probably my third favorite pitcher on the slate. It's going to be really tough to play him at 10-3. I'm still waiting to see what shakes out with the whole sticky thing. He seems to be one that's numbers have gone down a little bit since they've cracked down on it. Twins have a decent lineup because, of course, they're better against left-handed pitching, but with the Reyes, Lernish, there's some left-handed bats in here that could get to Giolito. So I don't know, 10-3. I don't want to play that much. There is a 10K guy that I'm absolutely locking in that we'll talk about in the next game. So I don't know if I'm gonna go him today. Maybe in a GPP, maybe to be a little bit different. Maeda on the other side, I don't really mind him. The White Sox are a good hitting lineup, but he's been a really solid pitcher, just like one of the ones that is not going to go out there and get 30 fantasy points every single outing, but he has enough stuff and has enough control to turn out some nice numbers. So you're probably looking at numbers in the teens here, but still at 75, if you're trying to get some bats in, it's not a bad price tag at all. Sorry. There might be a little bit of rain in this game. It looks like it's about 50% chance, but then it tapers off, so it might be a late start. So you just have to keep an eye on the weather. Here, not interested in bats on either side of here with the pitching situation. And the next game coming up is the Milwaukee Brewers with Freddie Peralta and Kyle Hendricks. I actually like both these pitchers. Peralta is my number one pitcher on the slate. And Hendricks, in a lot of builds, I'm playing as my SP2. I know 9-1's a lot to pay for him, but he's got a really good floor, and this Milwaukee team really continues to struggle. They lost Wong to the IL now, so Yelich is really the only one, and Adames at times, but I really like him more against lefties. Really, there's some strikeouts here, and they're really not a scary lineup. There's only 7 total for this whole game, so both pitchers in play here. Peralta is definitely my favorite, and not interested in any of the bats. Next game is the Houston Astros against the Orioles. Houston's crazy favorites, negative 327 as I'm looking at the line here, 6.3 run total. So Zach Greinke is pitching for them. I think he's playable as the SP2. I think he's more of a GPP. Just keep in mind he's a reverse splits guy. He's worse against right-handers than left-handers. So if you guys want, I'm so sorry. If you guys want to take some right-handed bats here, it's hard though, because if even as one-offs, I'm okay with Moncayo and Santander because you get 3 outfield spots. But if you lock them into first base, if you're trying to play a stack, I guess it would kind of work, even like Houston, because I don't really like playing Gurriel at sometimes that high price. So Mancini one off there potentially against Greinke, but I think I'm just going to leave the Baltimore bats alone. Houston, again, a really good stack here. I probably would go lower on down if we're trying to get some decent pitchers in here, and maybe start with do maybe a wraparound thing and go Correa, or even skip Correa, go Tucker, Torres, Straw, Maldonado, catcher, skip Altuve, and hit Brantley. That one seems to work pretty well. Next game is the St. Louis Cardinals and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Really not interested in the pitchers here, and I think both of them make cheap stacks. About 40% chance of rain here, so have to watch that also. Arizona, no problem stacking them here against Wade LeBlanc, especially with their relatively cheap pricing. Like Marte is a little expensive at almost 5K there, but Rojas, Escobar, Walker, Cabrera, like he's either hot or cold. Pav Smith. So definitely, if you're looking for some cheap bats, and again, I'll maybe for like a week longer, I'll still continue to play them for $1, just see where that gets me. I'm still way ahead right now, 17 in, 125 profits. So I'll definitely take that. And St. Louis Cardinals, pretty much right-handed lineup against this righty, but I think in a GPP they make a sneaky stack, not too outrageously priced. Goldsmith has really come down. He's at 4.5. Used to be a 5K guy. Arenado is like probably the most expensive guy here at 5.4. Final game of the slate is going to be the Dodgers against San Francisco. DeStefani's been good recently, but his 2 games against LA this year, he had negative DK points in one of them and single-digit DK points in the other. So I don't know. 7.3 is an enticing price. His form is good, but I just see what he's done against this team. Again, we don't know which LA Dodger. I didn't look at like what phase it was. Like, did they have all the guys? Was it when they didn't have guys? It seems like guys have rotated in and out of the lineup. But Muncy's back. Seager should be back soon. I don't think he'll be back today. Bellinger's back. He's not the same hitter he has been over the last couple of seasons. I think the injuries have kind of added up, and maybe he's still working on like his timing and getting completely healthy. But you still have like Betts and Turner and everybody in this lineup. And even when they rest guys and throw other guys in, like McKinstry, he had like a really big game. It was yesterday or the day before. So they have so many weapons on this team. I just think I'm out on him. Trevor Bauer's pitching for, and he's another one that I'm kind of skeptical with. I think he would be most likely the SP2 if you're going to pay up for 2 pitchers. In cash, I don't know. I'll have to decide. I'll show you a build with Peralta and Bauer, and then I'll let you decide if you want to spend that much on him. Against a Giants team who's lost Belt but has been pretty hot this season. So not looking, maybe in a GPP, I'd take some of the Giants bets to kind of target him. But and the Dodgers, I think they're okay, but they'd be my 4th favorite stack. So looking at stacks today, Houston number 1, Boston number 2, New York number 3, the Dodgers would be 4. For GPP, I like Washington, especially Kyle Schwarber. Cleveland against a pitcher who's struggling with a little bit of control. St. Louis against the Arizona pitcher who's also been struggling a bit. For cheaper YOLO GPP stacks, the Mets, definitely. Detroit, I think, are a very fair price. Got to watch the weather there. Baltimore righties against Greinke, who struggles against righties at times, and Arizona. Pitching, Peralta is my favorite, followed by Bauer and Giolito. Both those 2 are 10K and questionable with sticky stuff. Greinke, I think, is a decent GPP. Mid-range, Hendricks, absolutely, probably my favorite. Probably going to use him as my SP2 today. Bundy's okay against the Yankees, but a little scary. Rather take Maeda against Chicago, but got to watch the weather there. For cheap ones, really, really scary, really mildly risky. I'm not saying that these guys are all gas cans, but Garrett Richards, who's struggled this season, but gets KC, who struggled last couple of games batting. Morgan, potentially, I know he's got the control issues, but he seems to be one that against Detroit could potentially be okay. And then DeStefani, I think, is a GPP. Like I said, I look at his numbers recently. He's got good form, having a decent season. Like the price, but then I just look at his 2 games against the Dodgers already, and it just scares me a little bit. So let's just talk about some roster construction quickly, and then we'll get you on your way for your Monday. So the first one would be is if we actually take Bauer and Peralta. I think you need to lock in like Severino or I'll call him Revolt because I can never say his last name, but the 2.4K catcher from Minnesota. Those are the 2 lowest guys I saw projected to start. And if you want to take Houston, like I said, you're going to look at like Brantley, Straw, Tucker, Toro, and then maybe you can get Altuve in. You can only get like one higher price one, but you really have to punt. It's not too bad. It gives you about I think like 2.7 left for the other 2 positions, which would be first base and shortstop. And shortstop's really hard for a punt. There's a guy, Zach, is it Zach Short? Z Short. Yes, it's Zach Short for Detroit that's projected to start at 2-1. He's batting ninth. I don't know anything about him, but just the price, I think, is if you want to punt shortstop, but this construction is really hard. You might need to leave second base open. That's where I said like Fletcher is a really good pivot one out there for like a second base in these lineups, because he's only 2.5 and he's on an 11 game hitting streak. So I think definitely he can realistically get you a couple points where anybody else that you might punt, you're possibly looking at a 0. Nothing guaranteed here. A punt could put up 21 points and hit a home run and have a great game, and a punt could get 0 and a great play could get 0. It's baseball. The range of outcomes is very great. It's a high variance sport. So that would be the build if you take both of them. Like I said, if you want to settle with a little bit cheaper and take like Peralta and like Garrett Richards at 6'9", throw in a Severino there too, then you can get the full Houston stack of Alvarez, Brantley, Tucker, Toro, Altuve, and again, you're punting at shortstop and first base if you want to throw Mulatto in there as your catcher, and not play like Altuve or go like a lower stack there, then that opens up a little bit more salary for some of the other positions. But I think, like I said, I think my favorite one is going to be Peralta and Hendricks. And if I throw in Fletcher and O'Hearn, my two like core pieces for cheap values at second base and at one of the outfield spots, you can get a lot of different lineups here. Like the Red Sox fit in there, but you just have to do a one-off in outfield unless you go and take their catcher, and then that gives you just take another team for outfield there. So that works. If they have the right-handed catcher in against Duffy, Vasquez, I think he's definitely a decent option there. Or if you want to go a little bit cheaper, you can maybe play Kiki in the outfield over and then go up at catcher. So there's definitely options there. But actually the Yankees fit in really great with this build. Whether you want to take Greinke or Hendricks as your SP2, you can build it, and you can get, if you put Fletcher and O'Hearn in, you can get Voit, Urshela, Torres, and Stanton there. And then that leaves you about $5K for your last outfielder. If you go up to Greinke, then that leaves you 800 less. You get like 42. So you'd have to take a one off there. If you want to try to get Judge in, then you just have to figure out which one of the 3 punt players, if you're the 2.4 catcher, O'Hearn or Fletcher, if you want to drop them down to get the extra, I think it's like $200 that you need to get Judge in. $300 in, because you're going to have 5K left. Or you can throw Gary Sanchez in a catcher, and then that gives you about, I think, $2,700 left for your outfielder. If you go with Hendricks, and I don't know if you can get Greinke in that build. You might have to fudge one of your other value guys there to make that work, to even get a 2K punt in. So there's some builds. Hopefully that works out for you. Looks like a decent slate. I think this is going to be a fun one where it's not a definite chalk night, and it's not a night where there's so many options your head just wants to explode. So thanks for watching. I'm MegaRuler31. Drop some comments below, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time.